What's going on, workforce? Brian and Chris here, and we're back to talk to you guys, obviously, about the server congestion and Endwalker issues over the weekend. Now, just note that these videos are going to be spoiler free. I couldn't even begin to try and spoil it for you. I haven't even been able to step into Endwalker, and overall, I think Chris is going to keep it locked down in terms of like what not
like
even
Reaper and Sage.
Yeah, I
so
played
there is an
Reaper and
argument for that, which I have not, and I've not. And you've done those class quests, which I have not.
So, at its core, that's what we're going to talk about. Obviously, the thing that's plaguing the rest of the community. Well, it's just such an interesting topic because, like, if you go out onto like Reddit and the official forums right now, like, I mean, the salt and the pain is absolutely real, and I've been on both sides of it. I was not able to play on Sunday due to constantly getting kicked out due to a 2002 era, which essentially we do know the Yoshi P is going to be handing out 7 free days of playtime. And I think that's a good start. And I think even in his letter, he states that there's going to be the potential for even more depending on how, I think probably this week goes. I think this week's going to be a real telling week. And so Chris, obviously you've been able to play because when you wake up and you get on, like you're getting online during non-peak hours. I think the problem is because I was able to get online this morning. Without a problem.
I absolutely feel like an old man, because I'm having to get up at times of day to get on that I feel like an achiness in my bones. Like this is changing my priorities. Like I'm groaning as I walk to my office to boot up my client and log in.
Kids these days,
So it's I'm lucky enough to be in a position that I can reorganize my life to that degree.
Yeah.
And then once I'm on, I'm not getting off until I'm ready to call it a day. And because once I get off, that's it. You got in day and date. I was not able to get in when the servers first launched, even though I was there at 3. My button just didn't turn green. And then I lost like an hour and 20 minutes to you right out of the gate. Is what it is. I've had, I hopped on yesterday. It took me about 2 hours. Saturday morning, everybody that pushed to get hard on day one, Saturday morning, I got on at like 6 in the morning. And it was one of those, like, if number's 50 or less, that's a non-queue. So it was a non-queue. I was in within a minute. So, I played a lot. I don't want to reveal the hours because I don't want people to think about my progress as like, oh, that's how long that'll take, and that to set expectations, because I think many of us know based on patterns of last expansion what we expect. And so you've already kind of set up expectations for yourself, and any of us that have covering media tour, so you've already got some constraints in the box, and I don't want to adjust those at all. So just for everybody's awareness, Brian and I said pre-expansion that we believe this would be 60 hours of content. If you hear that number referenced anytime between December 3rd and January 3rd, it will continue to be 60 whether or not it is. So do not correct us in the comments. I don't care if it's more, I don't care if it's less, I don't care if your favorite zone is something you've done or not. I don't care. I don't care. Like, all I can think is the Bo Burnham song. I'm asking, but I don't want to know. Like, don't tell me. And so I think that once you're on the other side of the character select screen, everything has been fairly well received. People are thrilled to be in game. Very few disconnects. I had a power outage today. Thank God that didn't cost me a ton of time to get back in because it's the weekday, and that would have been a huge disappointment. Just my whole house just went and that would have been a huge loss over the weekend.
Right. That would have been a whole day. That would have been a whole day. A whole day gone. And my thought process on that specific thing is because, I've seen the gamut range from, Square Enix, what can they do? They've tried to get servers, to Square Enix has not done enough. Clearly they could have had, more servers. And so the information that I've seen people batting back and forth is like, a lot of it is end up being speculation. We, can't possibly know if Square Enix could have done more, either way or not. We can only know what Yoshi Peas has, told us in this regards. They, increase their offering price, but it ends up being that, for how Brandon sells houses. Brandon's my brother. He's been in a thing where he can't sell a house for a year because they literally have no houses to sell. There's just no, product essentially for that. It didn't matter if somebody comes in with 10 times the offering price. There's just not a product, so everybody's kind of competing for limited resources in this regard. So we don't know in that regards what ultimately the truth is, but we do know that this is the reality that we're in, and it's that 1700 hardware limit or something like that kicks you out of queue, and that's actually the real critical problem. I have no issue.
17,000.
Yeah, 17,000. Have no issue if there's a line. A line is okay. Like, all right, I got to come back, and I come back in an hour and check in. Oh, cool. I made 1,000, 1,000 progress, in that regards.
Right.
Okay. Right. I can budget time and I can go do other things. The problem is that it seems like anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes, it's going to randomly blow up that line, and you might get your spot back in line. But I know in my case, I got it back like twice, and then I lost it later. So I've heard
it seems like the best way to increase your chances of getting back is you need to be back in within seconds. Not, oh, I went and got a drink of water and I came back and immediately logged in. No. You need to be staring at it.
Yeah.
Hand over the mouse, which is just a housing savage way of doing things. It's miserable.
It is a housing savage.
It's tense.
And so I've seen online kind of the debate kind of pop up, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this one, Chris, because you lived through this other one. But it has Stormblood and Endwalker fighting for the worst Final Fantasy 14 launch back and forth, and then in the corner 1.0 is like amateurs. What do you think?
No, I can be devil's advocate on this one. You and I have had this conversation a little offline, so I'm already aware of a little bit of your stance, but I'm sure you'll kind of elaborate here in a second. But no, because Stormblood was content that was not prepared to be played.
Okay.
It was presented as prepared to be played. And what this is instead is when the content was delayed, the community overwhelmingly said they were okay with a 2-week delay.
Mm-hmm.
And to anybody that said, I lost my vacation, I saw a large number of people say, boo-hoo for you. And everybody was fine with this. The delay, the content will be good. And as far as I can tell, the content is good. And so the problem is that there's too many people that want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes all those people that probably wouldn't have been in if they had not had an extra 2 weeks to clear MSQ, and we were thrilled for them. They're going to join us. The number increased. That includes all of the people who now don't have time to take off, and so they would have had time to sit in line or get up at 6 a.m. and now they don't. And so they're being made worse. What this is this is a business. This is a restaurant that we have been telling everybody, I can't believe you eat at other restaurants. Those are bad restaurants. My restaurant's amazing. And then they all come over here to eat, and we're mad there's a line. And I go up to the hostess and I go, hey, you remember me? Yeah, how many? It's table for two, but we go back. How many? Get out of the way. And host's in a bad mood. There's a bouncer at the door that's occasionally pushing people over, and you say, hey, that was my spot in line. Bouncer's like, I don't care. I wasn't asking. And we're mad. But there is a chef in the back that we have all been proud of and adored.
Yeah.
Who is continuing to serve food at the same pace they always have, at the same quality they always have, to every customer that gets a table. They have increased the number of tables and to the maximum degree, but there is a table manufacturing shortage, but they have increased the tables and they have paid top dollar for as many tables as possible. And we're upset that 65,000 people showed up at the restaurant at exactly the dinner rush, and they can't seat us all simultaneously. And that's just not the chef's fault.
Nobody's upset about that. The bouncer's fucking dropping dynamite, like in the line.
But
like,
you're comparing it to Stormblood,
which you got in
where
to the
people
restaurant.
were getting food poisoning in the
They weren't getting
restaurant.
food poisoning. They were in line, and then they were choosing to continue to click on the breadsticks.
No, not
and then and refuse to sit here and say like, okay, well, this is
all ordered
clearly
the same dish. Oh, that dish is going to be a 5-hour wait. No,
right.
That is a kitchen issue. This is not a kitchen issue. This is too many people.
It's not too mmany people. It's literally they're blowing up the line. That is the problem. And hands down, like if the line is absolutely ridiculously long, but throwing sticks of dynamite at the line doesn't make it better. It doesn't make the dish on the other end of the at the thing. It doesn't make this like getting into the restaurant a great experience. If the line wasn't blowing up, then yes, it's just, you know, like there's non-issue. But the fact is
I've
that
seen people compare it to
Stormblood
New
lets
World,
you
and New
into
World's
the
lines weren't
restaurant
blowing
and
up.
you are at least able to have your choice. Like, well, okay, maybe I can't do that, but I can go do these 1,000 other things, as opposed to sitting here like, I'm going to sit in line and I'm randomly going to get sniped in the head. And then turns out my day is gone. My day is ruined. This is worse. This is far worse than Stormblood in that regards, because at least Stormblood, if you were choosing to slam your head against the fence, like that was your choice as a player, as opposed to sitting here peacefully, excitedly. Oh, this is going to be great. I got my spot in line. It's 15 million. I don't care. I'm ready for this. I'm waiting. And then it's like, it's not 15. It's 30 now. Why? What did I do wrong? Nothing. You were here. And that's why this is, in my opinion, the worst launch. Now the question would be, is it worse than 1.0? Like that's the debate. Like I think about it and I go, I was able to play it, but it wasn't really a good game, you know. So the restaurant was bad. Like that's where I would go with your food analogy with the like.
But
food
I think
poisoning.
the difference is which one does the restaurant fail. And so if people are getting pushed out of line outside the restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
that is a worse consumer experience. It is.
Yeah.
However, when we were talking about the health of the game, the restaurant will continue to have people get in line, even if they're getting pushed out of line. They're doing it over and over and over again. People are getting kicked out of line and they're getting back in.
Yeah.
And they're getting kicked out of line and they're getting back in. This restaurant, because when they get in, the food is something they want to consume, and they will come back time and time again. As opposed to a Stormblood, there were people who just actively said, "Yeah, I'm not playing this then," and they took breaks. And so the question is, how long does this run?
Right.
I don't think calling opening weekend of an MMO, server queue horror show is indicative of a big problem. I don't think this will go down as Raubahn Extreme equivalent.
I think it's worse than Raubahn Extreme. Like that was amateur level here. This is worse. If they fix the kicking people out of line, then it's a non-issue at all. If people stop getting yeeted into the void, it's a non-issue. And then Raubahn comes back from behind and says, "I got you." But this isn't just
This is fixable, right? So the difference is this is fixable, not scalably, but this is fixable. Raubahn, once it was struggling for everybody.
Yeah.
So unless you were a story skipper, there was no way past it. But I am telling you, there are people, not everybody can do this, but there are people who work from home or are self-employed or whatever, and they can adjust their schedule. And once they get in, it's stable.
Oh yeah,
and they're fine. And so the difference is Raubahn, the moment that happened, universal problem. No,
it wasn't a universal problem. It ended up just becoming it just became a roadblock. Wasn't a universal problem. It just became a roadblock, and then people continued to choose to waste their time on it. It is. I cannot see how this is not worse than Raubahn.
So the difference is, because you're saying, well, people are the ones who chose to do MSQ, but this is a game where everything's gated behind MSQ. So Raubahn Extreme in Guild Wars,
right,
where the story's optional, yeah, that's your fault. Like, don't go do the living story then. Like, go do literally anything else. But in Final Fantasy, saying, well, it's a roadblock in the story, that's the whole game.
Right.
Like, even
but
for
the queue is now
Xeno hit level 90, you still got to clear the story.
But kicking people out of queue is a roadblock to story. Like that's what I'm saying. Like those things are the same thing, except for I can, if I'm in the game, and because even in Stormblood the servers were stable, because you could still go and do other things. And that's what I'm saying. Like, all right, like if you want, and the problem with Raubahn is like it wasn't like the solution there was like, just give us a number. Like, oh, hey, I'd like to do this part in the story. Everybody, runs into it like a brick wall. If it's like, I'll come back in an hour and your slot is reserved. Okay, great.
Absolutely. Right. In both cases, if they could let me reserve, right? If you would let me get home from work at 5 and you could say, hey, it's a queue. It's going to take 1 to 3 hours. But if you book getting on the server at 9 p.m., you will be first in line at 9 p.m. Can't guarantee it'll be 9 p.m. It's give or take. It's like getting a reservation at a restaurant.
Exactly.
But at 9 p.m., when you show up, you're going to get that 57-person queue or whatever. Within 2 minutes, it's going to tick in. You are guaranteed that slot as long as you were here between 9 and 9:15. This whole thing's fixed.
Right.
You let that queue spike up to 100,000 and there's no disconnecting. But and there's no way around it, because I'm seeing people say like, oh, I'm booting multiple clients and I'm doing some world visit thing to like circle it.
Yeah, I've seen.
Or people are like, oh, I'm doing anti-AFK and against terms of service stuff. I think it's great because my character hasn't logged out in 7 days. Okay, well, you're the problem then. So like,
it becomes a problem, a self-fulfilling problem though, because is that once people are afraid to get out, then essentially they stop getting out, and so then essentially like, oh, I'm not leaving the restaurant because I might not get back in the restaurant.
Correct.
I'm just going to play this and then help him out.
So I'm hungry to order again.
Yeah.
Because I would rather play this story. I haven't finished MSQ yet, and I would rather play the story 4 to 6 hours at a time. Take a break, take my dog for a walk, go eat a meal with my wife, and come back and do it again.
Yeah.
As 2 4 to 6 hour sessions. That's 8 to 12 hours. It's an incredible amount of game time. And instead, what I'm doing is I'm doing 12 hours back to back.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid that if I hop off, I can't hop back on.
Right. And
so it is changing my gaming consumption habit.
Right.
And that's not good.
Right.
So it's incredibly frustrating either way. We're literally debating, would you rather get punched in the face or punched in the gut? And like the answer is I don't
get punched.
I don't want to be punched.
Yeah.
And so like we're debating, and then like I'm sure some people are arguing like, would you rather punch 5 people in the face or 6 people in the gut? Like there's some sort of conversion where suddenly that changes. How about we just stop punching? Like that's way better.
Yeah.
We're here. So, and what hurts worse than Raubahn is that this is right now.
Oh yeah.
So what hurts worse than Raubahn I'm being punched actively.
Right. The Stormblood thing also has that the power of like hindsight and time.
Sure.
Like, oh man, that sucked at the time, but it didn't suck yesterday. Nobody got caught on Raubahn yesterday. So it's essentially that, time does heal wounds and you do remember the past less fondly. And that's where it's like I'm saying, like, it would be like the one thing that I just want, and I'm hoping for that it's a quick fix, but I cannot say for certain because Yoshi P said the term hardware limit, and that has my like heart go like, okay, because people are obviously speculating, and that's where I think there's some danger here. Like I really think so there's some like, oh my gosh, like they're gonna just buy, like I already heard people like by Monday.
No,
I hope to goodness tonight is a great night for people. But when people ask me, I go, if it's, I think there could be a fix, and the fix is like find out. Yoshi P talked about some kind of packet loss, use a hardline thing, and it's like I'm on a hardline thing, and like if they could figure out a way to stop whatever that is, killing it, like then I think they're going to be good. But if they're not, then it's going to be something that eventually I think works its way out. But I just think about a couple of things that happen or are happening now that have never happened in the history of this release. You have the tide of all the new players, and now you have new content, and you have a tide of all these players that have been just waiting for new content to drop. And then you think of the raiders, right? Like you often kind of talk about how the Savage Raiders have had the longest content droughts in the history of Final Fantasy XIV, where the last Savage was
January.
December 8th to it's a year plus. And so you think about, hey, do you want to get on? Like we got to prepare for the like raid. That means leveling, and yes, they don't want you to rush through the story, but there's mats and crafting, like there's whole like teams of people who have these kind of things. And now all of a sudden you have that fear of stepping out of the game, and then that again it just kind of exacerbates, and it sucks because like again the restaurant is great.
How's the world first race work if somebody gets disconnected from a team and can't get back in?
Cannot get back in. And if that persists throughout the
that's
holiday.
A symptom. Like I'm not saying we should all log out so the world first raiders can raid. Like it's a symptom.
Right.
But the problem here is if it is at a hard capacity and there is no way to increase that capacity, line stability I think would go a long way towards fixing public sentiment. But at the end of the day, if we are at a capacity, the only thing that fixes the capacity is to drop below capacity.
Right.
If you have 8 seats at your dinner table and you invite 50 people over and we're all complaining, the only answer is for you to piss enough people off that we drop to 8 or less people. And unfortunately, Final Fantasy for the last decade has been producing content that doesn't make people want to leave.
Right.
And so,
man, I hope somebody wants to leave, and they're like,
players.
not me, man. I ain't falling on that sword.
You can absolutely, so like, you know, an instant solution is, what if people just didn't want to play for 12 hours straight?
Yeah.
So like, it is a problem of,
I think that's
the problem is the chef has gotten better and better and better at making incredible food. And so as the line gets longer, and now we've got literal like bullies out in the parking lot that when you get out of your car at the restaurant, they beat you up, and we're like, but the food is just so good.
Yeah.
And so like,
it's worth it.
And so like, I don't see it getting better. The only thing that makes it better on a Monday versus a weekend is that a lot of people's very real lives are forcing them not to play.
Right.
And so the total capacity of people trying to get in gets better. So people are like, well, I tried to happen on Monday, I didn't get a line. Yeah, because a lot of people are at work. And
that,
so
that also
that
like
won't
as
fix it. But come
people,
Saturday,
right. And as people like, I think clear the store, like I think there's a natural, you know, thing. And that's why the good side of this is that in game, once you're there, you're set. The problem is like you said it right. Like it does kind of feel like Housing Savage is that randomly you win. Like, and I was almost like, earlier this weekend, I was thinking, oh, randomly you might lose. And it's like, no, actually randomly you're the winner. Like, you know,
and you're excited. And the first thing you do is don't tell your friends.
I literally had somebody
because
said,
you feel bad for them.
Right. I literally had somebody said that it said 11 and then it said 16, like, you know, then it said 6,800, whatever. Like it said 11 and you're like, oh man, like we're going in, just counting it down. And then it's like, hi, you know, remember me? I'm your old friend. The dynamite stick from the beginning of this video.
It's frustrating.
You know, and it sucks.
It's incredibly frustrating.
And I see some people in chat saying that it's a non-issue. And as much as I love you, chat, for, you know, that mindset, I could not disagree with you more. Like that's dismissive of the people who spin out. It's an issue.
It's an issue. I don't think it. The Stormblood thing was, how did this make it through quality assurance? This was, did you guys not see the message board saying that 5,000 of us were coming to the restaurant?
Yeah.
And so I will say, I am not nearly, so saying this is as bad as Stormblood implies that in my mind that there is the same intentionality and maliciousness of like, or negligence. And there's not.
No.
Like they've done, and so Stormblood was a, you guys need to get better at your jobs. And then they did. Mm-hmm. And the Shadowbringers, they nailed it. And then this time it's like, okay, there is no version of events where this could have been avoided, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll accept that. I can accept that as a like.
So that's why I'm not as frustrated as Stormblood, because Stormblood, I felt I could blame somebody, and this is like, well, I mean, what are you gonna do? And so you know, it's where we're at. Yeah, it would be really nice if this got fixed. I do think you're right. This does alleviate, kind of like we've had various times that raid content or alliance raid content, especially the normal content, was tuned a little hard, where it came out, it was really hard and people called for nerfs. You know, it happened back, I think in Stormblood.
Stormblood it happened, yeah.
We had some instance content come out where everybody logged in, and if you didn't have all your buttons on your bar, the boss just kicked you off the platform and you died.
And that's a really good point, is that everything was just nice and smooth, and then all of a sudden it just shot up, and it was like, oh, we're doing this.
Shocking.
Yeah, it shocked people.
And people called for nerfs, and they didn't really come down with a big nerf hammer and fix it. It just fixed itself because gear fixed it. And so this will do the same thing. Right now, I'm playing some silly number of hours per day and focusing on content creation. There are people right now that, when I feel like I'm playing a silly amount per day, for me, there are people that are playing substantially more than me. That's not a maintainable pace.
Right.
Like I can tell you, my house will fall apart. My wife will leave me. Like this is not a long-term plan.
Right.
I am in a sprint, and many people are here with me. And many of you guys are in a position where you set aside time. You've been able to set aside time to sprint, but this will end. And so people that normally play 2 hours a week, 4 hours a week, 8 hours a week, whatever, right now are playing 10, 12, 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
And so like, as they get past their initial content goal, as they get to MSQ, or they get one of each class to 90, like each goal, they will step down the level of priority that this game can have as compared to everything else that goes on in our lives. Other games, personal commitments, you know, professional commitments, sleep, just the biological commitments of being human. that stuff will start to come back in and share in that time.
Yeah.
And that will naturally alleviate, instead of 100,000 people trying to play 20 hours a day, it might still be 100,000 people, but it's 100,000 people trying to play 4 hours a day. And that's
well, and
way
then once
easier
you're
to
not afraid of
satisfy.
logging out, because you know that like within reason you'll be able to get back in, that also then starts to alleviate that. I just if
And imagine
hope-
if we were getting yeeted once we were logged in. How much?
Oh,
worse
that would be
mid cutscene, no
Right.
new game plus.
right.
Oh, sorry.
You're out. Like that would be the worst of worst situations, and thankfully that's not the case. They just hopefully can stabilize the queue lines, and that's the only thing that concerns me is hardware limitation. But yeah, I think chat's also saying victims of their own success, which I was like, yeah, in this way, that is absolutely true. The other thing that I think, the final thing I have, and I'll let you sign us out, Chris, is that I think also you have this whole year we use the restaurant analogy as a key aspect, and I think it's more true that it's not like, oh, we're going to go out to eat to a restaurant. Like, oh, we really haven't eaten this year. Like we've repurposed leftovers. We've been able to do all these kind of things, and we've been able to make a lot of really good stuff out of, what was left over, because this has been the longest content drought for the rating team, like you've pointed out multiple times, but also just for the general community. We haven't had, like, what was it? Like May? Like, I can't even remember 5555555. So it's like, it's been a really long gap. And so then you have everybody also now in line and hungry. And so, like you said, people are over consuming once they get into the restaurant, and it's, at some point that becomes, they have consumed the, everything the restaurant has to offer. And then they either, do it again, or they do it at a different pace. Absolutely. Anyway, go. Any final thoughts, Chris?
I think the final thoughts is, anybody that's made it this far, I think you're willing to be respectful of just a couple of things. I would say, remember that this game is welcome to be consumed any way that's fun. There are going to be story skippers that are having a blast. There are going to be people that want to take multiple weeks to enjoy this. Just be really respectful of somebody else's journey. It's not about treating somebody else the way you want to be treated exactly. It's about treating somebody else with the amount of respect you would want to be treated. So if you wouldn't want the entire server to be filled with people that are anti-AFKing while they sleep so they don't have to deal with queues, then don't do that. If you wouldn't want to have something that you care about spoiled, whether or not that's story, then don't do that thing to other people. Brian and I will be putting out a ton of spoiler-free content. I'm putting out across Gaming Kinda Reacts, Gaming Kinda, and Gaming Kinda over on Facebook. I'm putting out a minimum of 4 posts a day right now, all of which were filmed prior to Endwalker. I may come out with a couple on things like thoughts like this, where I am going to keep it incredibly spoiler-free. That will slowly trickle out come January 3rd. That's when I'll start posting like my story reactions and stuff. So that I assume by that point, anybody that's still trying to avoid spoilers will have like autoplay turned off and will be very much, avoiding the internet. But until then, I'm trying to be respectful of, the fact that a search algorithm puts things in front of you and you don't always have control over that. So hopefully you guys are enjoying everything we make. I know, Brian, you've already got some guides up. You've been doing a ton of kind of primers and guide work and things like that with whatever time you can get in game. I wish you guys the best of luck in Login Savage. I don't think it's as frustrating once you're in.
Right.
And so the nice thing is that if you can get to the other side, and if possible, that may mean that you have to move around the times you want to play, or you need to move back the date at which you expect to be able to binge it at your convenience. Because that's just where we're at. And I think you and I both can agree that obviously if Raubahn Extreme and this both never happened, that would be better. But
right,
here we are.
All right, guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully you have a good day, and we'll see you next time. Take care.